Hey, how's it going? My name is Fred, and I wanted to bring up a topic that a lot of people have been talking about. And what is that topic? It's going to be about FICO scores and how they're calculated. So without any further ado, I just want to go ahead and jump right into this training. Um, FICO scores were calculated for many different pieces of credit data that's in your credit report. And the data is grouped into 5 different categories, and we're going to talk about it below. The percentages in the chart reflect how important each of the categories is in determining how your FICO scores are calculated. Your FICO scores consider both positive and negative information in your credit report, and late payments will lower your FICO scores, but establishing or reestablishing a good track record of making payments on time will raise your score. So how is a FICO score broken down? Let's go ahead and talk about this. Payment history is going to account for 35%, while your debt utilization ratio, or the amounts owed, is going to calculate for another 30%. Length of credit history accounts for 15%, and then new credit or credit inquiries accounts as 10%, as well as a credit mix, which also accounts for 10% of your FICO score. So the percentages are based on importance of the 5 categories for the general population. And for particular groups, for example, people who may not have been using credit for that long, the relative importance of these categories may be different. So the importance of the categories varies per person, and your FICO scores are calculated based on the 5 categories. So for some groups, the importance of these categories may vary. For example, people who have not been using credit for that long will be factored differently than those with a longer credit history. The importance of any one factor in your credit score calculation depends on the overall information in your credit report. So for some people, one factor may have a larger impact than it would for someone with a much different credit history. So in addition to that, as the information in your credit report changes, so does the importance of any factor in determining your FICO scores. So therefore, it's important to measure the exact impact of a single factor in your credit score and how it's calculated without looking at your entire report. Even the levels of importance shown in the FICO score charts are for general population and will be different for different credit profiles. So getting back to the payment history, credit payment history determines 35% of your FICO score. The first thing that any lender wants to know is whether you've paid past credit accounts on time. This is one of the most important factors in your FICO score. A few late payments are not an automatic score killer. However, an overall good credit picture can outweigh 1 or 2 instances of late credit card payments. However, having no late payments in your credit report doesn't mean that you're going to have a perfect score. Your payment history is just one piece of information used in calculating your FICO score. Credit payment history on many types of accounts. Account types considered for payment history include things like your credit cards, for example, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover. Retail accounts, credit cards from stores where you shop, like department store cards such as Macy's or JCPenney's or Sears. Installment loans, those are loans where you make regular payments like a car loan, student loan, things of that nature. And a finance company accounts or mortgage loans. Public records and collection items. These types of events are considered quite serious, although older items and items with small amounts will count less than recent items or those with larger amounts. So negative factors include things like bankruptcies, which can stay on your credit report up to 10 years, depending on the type, foreclosures, lawsuits, wage attachments, liens, or judgments. Details on late or missed payments, such as delinquencies and public records and collection items. So FICO scores, what they consider is how late they were, how much was owed, how recently they occurred, and how many there are. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the amounts owed section on an account. It determines 30% of your FICO score. So owing money on a credit account doesn't necessarily mean you're a high-risk borrower with a low FICO score. However, when a high percentage of a person's available credit is being used, this can indicate that a person overextended and is more likely to make a late or miss a payment. Part of the science of scoring is determining how much is too much for a given credit profile. So your FICO scores take into account several factors. The amount owed on all accounts. So not that Note that if you pay off your credit cards in full each month, your credit report may show a balance on those cards, and the total balance on your last statement is generally the amount that will show in your credit report. The amount owed on different types of accounts. In addition to the overall amount you owe, your FICO scores consider the amount you owe on specific types of accounts, such as credit cards and installment loans. Credit utilization ratio on revolving accounts. So your utilization ratio on revolving accounts, it's the percentage of your available credit you're using. It's a very important factor in your FICO score. Using a high percentage of your available credit means you're close to maxing out your credit cards, which can have a negative impact on your FICO scores. But on the other hand, using a low percentage of your available credit can have a positive impact. In some cases, a low credit utilization ratio will have a more positive impact on your FICO scores than not using any of your available credit at all. So it's also important to note that your current account balance isn't necessarily the balance that shows up on your credit report and factors into your FICO scores. Your account balance on your credit report will reflect the account balance your lender reported to the credit bureau, typically the balance from your latest monthly statement. So even if you pay your credit card balances in full each month, your account balance won't necessarily show up on your credit report as zero. How many accounts have balances? A large number of accounts with amounts owed can indicate higher risk of overextension. How much of the total credit line is being used, or other revolving credit cards? Someone who is close to maxing out several credit cards has a high credit utilization ratio and may have trouble making payments in the future. How much of the installment loans amounts is still owed compared with the original loan amount? For example, if you borrowed $10,000 to buy a car and you have paid back $2,000, you still owe, with interest, more than 80% of the original loan. Paying down installment loans is a good sign that you're able and willing to manage and repay the debt. Getting into the length of the credit history, which accounts for 15%. In general, a longer credit history will increase your FICO scores. However, even people who haven't been using credit long may have high FICO scores depending on how the rest of the credit report looks. Your FICO scores take into account how long your credit accounts have been established, including the age of your oldest account, the age of your newest account, and an average age of all of your accounts. How long specific credit accounts have been established. How long has it been since you have used certain accounts. Credit mix. The credit mix determines 10% of a FICO score. FICO scores will consider your mix of credit cards, retail accounts, installment loans, finance company accounts, and mortgage loans. It's not necessary to have one of each, and it's not a good idea to open credit accounts you don't intend to use. The credit mix usually won't be a key factor in determining your FICO scores, but it will be more important if your credit report does not have a lot of other information on which to base a score. Have credit cards, but manage them responsibly. Having credit cards and installment loans with a good payment history will raise your FICO scores. People with no credit cards tend to be viewed as a higher risk than people who have managed credit cards responsibly. What types of credit accounts you have? Do you have experience with both revolving and installment type accounts, or has your credit experience been limited to one type? How many types of credit accounts? Your FICO scores also look at the total number of accounts you have. How many is too many will vary depending on your overall credit picture. Closing an account doesn't make it go away. A closed account will show up on your credit report and its history will be considered by your FICO scores. New credit. New credit determines 10% of a FICO score. People tend to have more credit today and shop for new credit more frequently than ever. FICO scores reflect this reality. However, research shows that opening several new credit accounts in a short period of time represents greater risk, especially for people who don't have a long credit history. Your FICO scores take into account several factors, including how you shop for credit. It's okay to request and check your own credit report. Checking your credit report won't affect your FICO scores as long as you order your credit report directly from the credit reporting agency or through an organization authorized to provide credit reports to consumers such as MyFICO. How many new accounts you have. Your FICO scores look at how many new accounts you have by type of account. They also may look at how many of your accounts are new accounts. Don't open new accounts too rapidly. If you've been managing credit for a long time, don't open a lot of accounts too rapidly. New accounts will lower your average account age, which will have a larger effect on your FICO scores if you don't have a lot of other credit information. Even if you have used credit for a long time, opening a new account can still lower your FICO scores. How many recent inquiries do you have? An inquiry is when a lender makes a request for your credit report or score. Inquiries remain on your credit report for 2 years, although FICO scores only consider inquiries for the last 12 months. FICO scores have been carefully designed to count only those inquiries that truly impact credit risk, as not all inquiries are related to credit risk. There are 3 important facts about inquiries to note. Inquiries usually have a small impact. Many types of inquiries are ignored completely, and the score allows for rate shopping. So, let's talk about a quick myth real quick. My FICO scores will drop if I apply for new credit. The truth is, if they do, they probably won't drop much. If you apply for several new credit cards within a short period of time, multiple requests for your credit report information, which is an inquiry, will appear on your credit report. Shopping for new credit can equate with higher risk, but most credit scores are not affected by multiple inquiries from auto or mortgage lenders within a short period of time. Typically, these are treated as a single inquiry and will have little impact on the credit score. So going back to the length of time since credit report inquiries were made, when you shop for credit, inquiries remain on your credit report for 2 years, although FICO scores only consider them for the past 12 months. How long it's been since you opened a new account? Your FICO scores may consider the time that has passed since you opened a new credit account for specific types of accounts. Whether you have a recent good credit history, having bounced back from the past payment problems. Late payment behavior in the past can be overcome. Reestablishing credit and making payments on time will raise a FICO score over time. And other available scores? While FICO is the most famous, there are several other versions and providers of credit scores, such as VantageScore, NextGen, Beacon, and Empirica. Some scores are directly developed by credit bureaus, while others are developed by outside companies. You have more than just one FICO score. So FICO scores, they've been used for over 25 years by many kinds of lenders to make more informed credit granting decisions. So to keep up with behavioral trends of consumers and to suit the evolving needs of lenders, the FICO score model has been redeveloped over the years. The result is that there are multiple FICO score versions available, in addition to the most widely used FICO Score 8. Additional FICO score versions, including prior-based FICO score versions as well as industry-specific auto and bank card versions, are also included in the FICO score products on myfico.com. So what I wanted to do now is I wanted to get into a quick little talk in regards to the different score models that they have out there. So let's go ahead and get into that now. So as you can see, there's several different FICO versions for your score. They fall into different score cards. So as you can see here, the most widely used version for Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion is the FICO Score 8 model. Versions used in auto lending include the FICO Auto Score 8 and Auto Score 2, as well as Auto Score 5 and Auto Score 4, just depending on which bureau that you're using when making that decision. Versions used in credit card decisions include the FICO Bank Card Score 8, Score 3, Bank Card Score 2, the Bank Card Score 5, as well as the Bank Card Score 4. And the version used in mortgage lending for Experian would be the FICO Score 2, Equifax is a FICO Score 5, and TransUnion is a FICO Score 4. And the newly released versions of FICO are the FICO Score 9, FICO Auto Score 9, and the FICO Bank Card Score 9. So as you can see, there's different score cards in regards to pulling your credit. This algorithm that FICO uses is highly proprietary. Nobody knows the secret sauce, if you will, in regards to how to use it or calculate it. But this is system that's generated quickly here. So I wanted to go over that to just give you a rough idea of all the different versions of FICO that is out there. Your score is always going to be different. So just keep that in mind when you are doing whatever you're doing with your credit. You want to keep in mind that whether you pull your credit from a auto lender versus a mortgage lender, that they are using different versions of the FICO score chart. Not score chart, but the FICO version of the score model. So with all the FICO score versions, the key to FICO scores remain the same. You always want to make your payments on time. You always want to keep your credit card balances low. I like to say under at least 10%. I like to get closer to 5% if at all possible. And the third thing is to open new credit accounts only when you need them. So let's go ahead and get into part one, the base FICO score versions and updates. One reason why there are multiple FICO score versions is that the FICO score model is updated periodically, resulting in a new FICO score version released to market every several years. The most recent FICO score version that is widely used by lenders is the FICO score 8 model. Why are there multiple FICO score versions? So since FICO scores were introduced to lenders about 25 years ago, they have become an industry standard, the best known and most widely used credit score. But quite a bit has changed since lenders first started using FICO scores back in 1989. Lender credit granting requirements, data, reporting practices, consumer demand for credit, and consumer use of credit have all evolved. FICO has redeveloped its scoring formula several times to keep pace with the changing credit landscape, ensuring that it remains an intuitive predictor of credit risk. FICO score models are updated to keep lending fast and fair for both the lender and consumer. When we update our model, we make sure that the score reflects changing consumer credit behavior. It includes our newest analytic technology and is adjusted for recent data reporting enhancements. When a new FICO score version is developed, we release it to the market, and from there, each lender determines if and when it will upgrade to the latest version. Some lenders make the upgrade quickly, while others may take several years, and this is why some lenders are currently using different versions of the FICO score. An example, FICO score 5 at Equifax is the FICO score version previous to the FICO score 8 at Equifax. It does help to think of how people use different versions of computer operating systems or have older or newer generations of smartphones. They all share the same base functionality, but the latest versions also have unique updated features to meet evolving user needs. The same goes for the FICO scores. The various score versions in use today all share a similar underlying foundation, effectively identifying high-risk credit users from low-risk ones. With every score update, however, unique features are incorporated that leverage new risk prediction technology and better reflect recent consumer credit behavior. The end result is a more predictive score that helps lenders make more informed lending decisions, which ultimately makes the credit process easier, faster, and fairer for you. FICO score 9 is the newest FICO version. It's the most predictive score to date. Many lenders have already upgraded to or in the process of upgrading to FICO score 9. And it's the newest FICO score version, and it has few important updates that make it the most predictive FICO score yet. First of all, the third-party collections that have been paid off no longer have a negative impact on the score. Medical collections are treated differently than other types of debt. Unpaid medical collections have less of a negative impact on the FICO score 9. Rental history, when it's reported, factors into the score, and this may be especially beneficial for people with limited credit history. So as you can see, this is getting very in-depth with the new laws that have changed and passed down by the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They wanted to get into this because these types of things were hurting people. You know, somebody who does the right thing and pays off a collection and, you know, it re-ages and stays on there for an additional 7 years. It was having a reverse impact, and the CFPB, they stepped in to, stepped in to make some changes, and it started out in New York. Part two of this lesson, we wanted to get into industry-specific FICO scores. So industry-specific FICO scores are versions of the FICO scores that are optimized for a certain type of credit product, such as auto loans or credit cards. The foundation of these versions is the same as the base FICO score versions, but they are fine-tuned based on industry-specific risk behavior. So what's the difference between base FICO scores and industry-specific FICO scores? Base FICO scores, such as FICO Score 8, are designed to predict the likelihood of not paying as agreed in the future on any credit obligation, whether it's a mortgage, credit card, student loan, or other credit product. Industry-specific FICO scores are designed to assess the likelihood of not paying an agreed on a specific type of credit obligation, car loans or credit cards, for example. So industry-specific FICO scores incorporate the predictive power of the base FICO scores, while also providing lenders a further refined credit risk assessment tailored to the type of credit the consumer is seeking. For example, auto lenders and credit card issuers may use FICO Auto Score or FICO Bank Card Score, respectively, instead of the base FICO scores. FICO Auto Scores and FICO Bank Card Scores have these aspects in common. Many lenders use these scores instead of the base FICO score, and it's up to each lender to determine which score they will use and what other financial information they'll consider in their credit review process. The versions range from 250 to 900 compared to 300 to 850 for the base FICO scores, and higher scores continue to equate to lower risk. Which FICO version is important to me? Consider these guidelines. Financing a new car? You'll likely want to know your FICO Auto scores. The industry-specific scores used in the majority of auto financing related credit evaluations. Are you applying for a credit card? You'll likely want to know your FICO Bank Card scores or FICO Score 8, the score versions used by many credit card issuers. Or, are you purchasing a home or refinancing an existing mortgage? You'll want to know the base FICO score versions previous to FICO Score 8, as these are the scores used in the majority of mortgage-related credit evaluations. For other types of credit, such as personal loans, student loans, and retail credit, you'll likely want to know your FICO Score 8, the score most widely used by lenders. 3 important things you can do right now. 1, check your credit report. Credit score repair or credit repair begins with your credit report. If you haven't already, request a free copy of your credit report and check it for errors. Your credit report contains the data used to calculate your score, and it may contain errors. In particular, check to make sure that there are no late payments incorrectly listed for any of your accounts and that the amounts owed for each of your open accounts is correct. If you find errors on any of your reports, dispute them with the credit bureaus. 2. Set up payment reminders. Making your credit payments on time is one of the biggest contributing factors to your credit scores. Some banks offer payment reminders through their online banking portals that can send you an email or text message reminding you when a payment is due. You could also consider enrolling in automatic payments through your credit card and loan providers to have payments automatically debited from your bank account. But this only makes the minimum payment on your credit cards and does not help instill a sense of money management. 3. Reduce the amount of debt you owe. This is easier said than done, but reducing the amount you owe is going to be a far more satisfying achievement than improving your credit score. The first thing you need to do is stop using your credit cards. Use your credit report to make a list of all your accounts, and then go online and check recent statements to determine how much you owe on each account and what interest rate you're charging you. Come up with a payment plan that puts most of your available budget for debt payments towards the highest interest cards first, while maintaining minimum payments on the other accounts. Some more tips on how to fix a credit score and maintain good credit. Payment history tips. Contributing 35% to a FICO score calculation. This category is the greatest effect on improving your scores, but past problems like missed or late payments are not easily fixed. Pay your bills on time. Delinquent payments, even if only a few days late, and collections can have a major negative impact on your FICO scores. If you have missed payments, get current and stay current. The longer you pay your bills on time being late, the more your FICO scores should increase. Older credit problems count for less, so poor credit performance won't haunt you forever. The impact of past credit problems on your FICO score fades as time passes and as recent good payment patterns show up on your credit report. And good FICO scores weigh any credit problems against the positive information that says you're managing your credit well. Be aware that paying off a collection account will not remove it from your credit report. It will stay on there for 7 years. If you have trouble making ends meet, contact your creditors or see a legitimate credit counselor. This won't rebuild your credit score immediately, but if you can begin to manage your credit and pay on time, your scores should increase over time. And seeking assistance from a credit counseling service will not hurt your FICO scores. Amount owed tips. This category contributes 30% to a FICO scores calculation and can be easier to clean up than payment history, but that requires financial discipline and understanding the tips below. Keep balances low on credit cards and other revolving credit. High outstanding debt can affect a credit score. Pay off debt rather than moving it around. The most effective way to improve your credit scores in this area is by paying down your revolving credit card debt. In fact, owing the same amount but having fewer open accounts may lower your scores. Don't close unused credit cards as a short-term strategy to raise your scores. Don't open a number of new credit cards that you don't need just to increase your available credit. This approach could backfire and actually lower your credit scores. Length of credit history tips. If you have been managing credit for a short time, don't open a lot of new accounts too rapidly. New accounts will lower your average account age, which will have a larger effect on your scores if you don't have a lot of other credit information. Also, rapid account buildup can look risky if you're a new credit user. New credit tips. Do your rate shopping for a given loan within a focused period of time. FICO scores distinguish between a search for a single loan and a search for many new credit lines, in part by the length of time over which inquiries occur. Reestablish your credit history if you had problems. Opening new accounts responsibly and paying them off on time will raise your credit score in the long term. Note that it's okay to request and check your own credit report. This won't affect the score as long as you order your credit report directly from the credit reporting agency or through an organization authorized to provide credit reports to consumers. Types of credit use tips. Apply for and open new accounts only as needed. Don't open accounts just to have a better credit mix. It probably won't raise your credit score. Have credit cards but manage them responsibly. In general, having credit cards and installment loans and paying timely payments will rebuild your credit scores. Someone with no credit cards, for example, tends to be a higher risk than someone who has managed credit cards responsibly. Note that closing an account doesn't make it go away. A closed account will still show up on your credit report and may be considered by your score. To summarize, fixing a credit score is more about fixing errors in the report history, if they exist, and then following the guidelines above to maintain consistent, good credit history. Raising your scores after a poor mark on your credit report or building credit for the first time will take patience and discipline. Fixing credit report errors. What to do? So to ensure that the mistake gets corrected as quickly as possible, contact both the credit bureau and the organization that provided the information to the bureau. Both of these parties are responsible for correcting inaccurate or incomplete information in your report under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. First, tell the credit bureau what information you believe is inaccurate. The credit bureau must investigate the item or items in question, usually within 30 days unless they consider that your dispute is frivolous. Include copies, but not originals, of the documents that support your position. In addition to providing your complete name, address, your letter should include these identifying information. So you want to clearly identify each item in your report that you're disputing. You want to state the facts and explain why you dispute the information. And then you want to let them know what you want to do. Do you want a deletion or correction? So what I want to do is I'm going to give you an example of what you would do. So you would say, hey, Mr. Equifax man, I got a copy of my credit report. I saw that you're reporting this Capital One account. The Capital One account shows that I was late in May of 2014. After reviewing my information, I don't agree with those records, and I've provided a copy of my check that did clear that month that they said that I was late. Please take this information showing that I have paid the account on time and I was not late, and please correct that date for the late payment as it wasn't late. So as you can see, I explained the account that I was identifying. I told them what why I thought the account was inaccurate, and I provided proof of that. And I told them what I wanted them to do. I wanted them to take the late payment off. You may want to enclose a copy of your report with the items in question circled. Your letter may look something like this sample on the following slides. So send your letters by certified mail, return receipt requested, so that you can document that the credit bureau has received your correspondence. And you want to keep copies of your dispute letter and the enclosures. So a sample letter might look something like this. Dear Sir or Madam, I'm writing to dispute the following information in my file. The items I dispute also are encircled on the attached copy of the report I received. So this item, and like I say, you're going to identify the item disputed by the name of source, such as a creditor or tax court, and identify the type of item it is, such as a credit account, judgment, etc. And it's inaccurate or incomplete and describe what's inaccurate or incomplete and why. I'm requesting that the item be deleted or request another type of specific change so that you can correct the information. Enclosed are copies of, and you're going to use the sentence if applicable and describe any enclosed documentation that you're providing, such as payment records or court documents supporting your position. Please reinvestigate this or these matters and delete or correct the disputed items as soon as possible. Sincerely, you put your name. You want to go ahead and provide some type of proof of your identity, such as a driver's license, copy of your social security number that verifies your social security number, driver's license verifies your name, and maybe a copy of a utility bill that's going to verify your address. And where it says enclosures down here, just list what you're enclosing. So if you're enclosing ID, ID, utility bill, and social security card. Second, you're going to write the appropriate creditor or other information provider explaining that you're disputing the information provided to the Bureau. Again, you're going to include copies of documents that support your position. Many providers specify an address for disputes, but if the provider again reports the same information to a Bureau, it must include a notice of your dispute. You're going to want to request that the provider copy you on the correspondence that they send to the Bureau. Expect the process to take between 30 and 90 days. In many states, you'll be eligible to receive a free credit report directly from the credit bureau once a dispute has been registered in order to verify the updated information. So contact the appropriate credit bureau to see if you qualify for the service. Credit bureau investigation, what if you disagree? An investigation may not resolve your dispute with the credit bureau with your outcome that you want. And if that's the case, ask the credit bureau to include your statement of the dispute in your file and your future reports. And if requested, the credit bureau will also provide your statement to anyone who received a copy of the old report in the recent past, that is. There usually is a fee for the service, but there shouldn't be. If you tell the information provider that you dispute an item, a notice of your dispute must be included anytime the information provider reports the item to a credit bureau while the dispute is being investigated. And if the investigation does not produce the results that you feel are correct and inaccurate information in your credit report is causing you harm, you may consider hiring a lawyer to help you with your dispute as a last resort. I don't really like the adding a statement. I do like to send a few rounds of disputes just because that's what I do. I want to know how they actually verified it. I want to make sure that there was no type of parroting involved. And what parroting is if I send a bureau a dispute in regards to an account and they send that information over to the furnisher of information, if that furnisher says we reviewed the information and the information is correct, they report that back to the bureau will go ahead and send you those results. When they do that, they are supposed to physically see something and have documentation that they've actually reviewed, not just looking into their system, because there could be a mix-up, there could be a merging of a file from another individual with a similar name in a similar area. It could be something that's linked to an address that's on your credit report. So there's many other factors, and you want to make sure that you get to the bottom of it. So that's what I highly suggest. Credit reports, you want to know your rights. Your credit payment history is recorded in a file or report. And these files or reports are maintained and sold by credit bureaus. You likely have a credit record on file at a credit bureau if you have ever applied for a credit or charge account, personal loan, insurance, or a job. Your credit record contains information about your debts and credit payment history. It also indicates whether you have been sued, arrested, or have filed for bankruptcy. The Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA for short, that's designed to help ensure that the credit bureaus furnish correct and complete information to businesses to use when evaluating your application. So your rights under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, you do have the right to receive a copy of your credit report, and the copy of your report must contain all the information in your file at the time of your request. You have the right to know the name of anyone who received your credit report in the last year for purposes, or in the last 2 years for employment purposes. Any company that denies your application must supply the name and address of the credit bureau they contacted, provided the denial was based on information given by the credit bureau. You have the right to a free copy of your credit report when your application is denied because of information supplied by the credit bureau. Your request must be made within 60 days of receiving your denial notice. If you contest the completeness or the accuracy of information in your report, you should file a dispute with the credit bureau and with the company that furnished the information to the bureau. Both the credit bureau and the furnisher of information are legally obligated to investigate your dispute. You have a right to add a summary explanation to your credit report if your dispute is not resolved to your satisfaction. Credit applications. Know my rights. When creditors evaluate a credit application, they cannot legally or lawfully engage in discriminatory practices. The Equal Credit Opportunity Act, ECOA for short, prohibits credit discrimination on the basis of sex, race, marital status, religion, national origin, age, or receipt of public assistance. Creditors may ask for this information, except for religion, in certain situations, but may not use it to discriminate when deciding whether to grant you credit. The ECOA protects consumers who deal with companies that regularly extend credit, including banks, small loan and finance companies, retail and department stores, credit card companies, and credit unions. Everyone who participates in the decision to grant credit, including real estate brokers who arrange financing, must follow this law. Businesses applying for credit also are protected by this law. Your rights under the Equal Employment Opportunity Act. You cannot be denied credit based on your race, sex, marital status, religion, age, national origin, or receipt of public assistance. You do have the right to have reliable public assistance considered in the same manner as any other income. And if you're denied credit, you have the legal right to know why. Credit billing and EFT statements. Know your rights. It's important to check credit billing and electronic fund transfer account statements regularly. These documents may contain mistakes that could damage your credit status or reflect improper charges or transfers. If you find an error or discrepancy, notify the company and contest the error immediately. The Fair Credit Billing Act and Electronic Funds Transfer Act establish procedures for resolving mistakes on credit billing and electronic fund transfer account statements, including charges or electronic fund transfers that you or anyone you have authorized to use your account have not made, charges or electronic fund transfers that are incorrectly identified or show the wrong amount or date, computation or similar errors, failure to reflect payments, credits, or electronic fund transfers properly, not mailing or delivering credit billing statements to your current address, as long as the address was received by the creditor in writing at least 20 days before the billing period ended, charges or electronic fund transfers for which you request an explanation or documentation due to a possible error. The FCBA generally applies only to open-end credit accounts, such as credit cards, revolving charge accounts, such as department store accounts, and overdraft checking accounts. It does not apply to loans or credit sales that are paid according to a fixed schedule until the entire amount is paid back, such as an automobile loan. The FTA applies to electronic funds transfers such as those involving automatic teller machines, or ATMs, point-of-sale debit transactions, and other electronic banking transactions. Debt and debt collectors. Know your rights. You are responsible for your debts. If you fall behind in paying your creditors or an error is made on your account, you may be contacted by a debt collector. A debt collector is any person other than the creditor who regularly collects debts owed to others. This includes lawyers who collect debts on a regular basis. You have the right to be treated fairly by debt collectors. The Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, or FDCPA for short, applies to personal, family, and household debts. This includes money owed for the purchases of a car, for medical care, or for charge accounts. The FDCPA prohibits debt collectors from engaging in unfair, deceptive, or abusive practices while collecting these debts. Your rights, again, under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Debt collectors may not contact you only between 8 and 8. They may only contact you between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Debt collectors may not contact your work if they know your employer disapproves of it. Debt collectors may not harass, oppress, or abuse you. Debt collectors may not lie when collecting debt, such as falsely implying that you have committed a crime. Debt collectors must identify themselves to you on the phone. Debt collectors must stop contacting you if you ask them to do so in writing. So that's my presentation, folks. Just wanted to give you guys some information. Hopefully it was insightful and taught you a thing or two about credit, about the FICO score and how it works, the different types of models there are out there, a little bit about the different laws that help protect us as consumers. And I wanted to go ahead and go over this. So if you're interested in learning more about credit repair or how we can help you, feel free to give us an email or call us. We'd be happy to assist you. And for those of you that have stayed with me for this entire presentation, I wanted to offer you something. So what we are offering is $100 off of our services. So you can get started with us today for as little as $300. We do have 3 different pricing programs. We have a $400, $600, or $800 program. So you'd be looking at $300, $500, or $700, depending upon which program you wanted to get started with, but you can start as little as $300. Very great. It's a very good deal for you. We do have great results in the past for our clients, and we do help educate you at the same time. This is a quick video tutorial. It's been a little bit, well, it's about 45 minutes now. So I do want to go over the email address. I don't want to take up all of your time. So if you are looking forward to looking at trying to get credit repair done, please email info@approvemyscore.com, and in the section in regards to what the email is about, please put $100 discount from the presentation in your title of your email. And then just send us a quick email of how we can get in contact with you, whether phone, text, email, whatever is easiest for you. We do want to make contact with you to go ahead and let you know what we can do for you. Or you can give us a call toll free, 1-800-972-3970. Again, 1-800-972-3970. Like I said, I wanted to keep this under an hour. I was able to compress that to just under 45 minutes. I don't want to take up all of your time, so I just want to take the time and opportunity to thank you guys for listening to this conversation. And like I said, I hope you guys did get something of value out of this presentation, and I look forward to working with you. If you know anybody who may need this information, please forward this on over to them. Please like and share. Please comment if you have any comments that you or questions that you may have. Comment below, or you can subscribe. We look forward to working with you, whether it's directly or indirectly, and you guys have a great day.